The roar of motorcycles echoed through the dense forest as two terrified young women stumbled over uneven ground, their breaths ragged and their faces streaked with tears. Sophia and Emma, daughters of a tech billionaire, had taken a detour on their way to a retreat, only to fall victim to a group of bandits targeting wealthy travelers. Their SUV had been forced off the road, their driver overpowered. Now they were running for their lives. "Keep moving," Sophia urged, pulling her younger sister by the arm. Emma, though exhausted, pushed herself forward, her heart hammering in her chest. The bandits were closing in. Their gruff voices carried through the trees like the growl of wolves hunting prey. Suddenly, the two sisters burst into a clearing. Standing before them was a man, lean and rugged, with eyes sharp as steel. His clothes were simple, patched in places, but his presence was commanding. This was Daniel, a kind-hearted but impoverished man who eked out a living gathering herbs in the forest. Before the sisters could explain, the first bandit charged into the clearing. Without hesitation, Daniel stepped forward. "Stay behind me," he ordered. The girls froze, unsure if the stranger could help against the 5 men who emerged from the trees, armed with knives and clubs. Daniel had no weapon, only the resolve of someone who had faced life's harshest challenges and refused to back down. "What do you want?" Daniel asked, his voice steady but cold. The leader of the bandits smirked. "Those two. Step aside, hero, and you won't get hurt." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Not happening." The bandit lunged, but Daniel moved like a coiled spring. In one swift motion, he sidestepped, grabbing a fallen branch from the ground. The makeshift weapon cracked against the attacker's arm, sending him reeling. The other bandits closed in, but Daniel fought with a ferocity born of necessity, using every ounce of his strength and wit. Sophia watched, her fear giving way to awe. There was something magnetic about this man, his courage, his selflessness. Her heart raced, not just from the danger, but from something she couldn't yet name. As the fight raged, Daniel sustained cuts and bruises, but he refused to yield. His determination unnerved the bandits. One by one, they faltered and fled, leaving their leader behind. The last man standing stared at Daniel with hatred but also fear. Finally, he spat on the ground and disappeared into the woods. Daniel dropped the branch, his chest heaving. "Are you two all right?" he asked, turning to the sisters. Sophia stepped forward, her voice trembling. You saved our lives." "Thank you." Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We thought we were going to die." Daniel offered a faint smile. "You're safe now. Let's get you out of here." Daniel led the sisters through the dense forest, retracing his mental map of trails and hidden paths he had learned over years of foraging. As the adrenaline of the fight faded, pain surged through his body. His shirt, tattered and smeared with dirt and blood, stuck to a gash on his side, but he pressed on, unwilling to slow down. Sophia noticed his labored breathing and reached out to steady him. "You're hurt," she said, her voice heavy with concern. "It's nothing," Daniel replied, his tone firm but kind. "We need to get you two to safety first." Emma looked over her shoulder, fear still evident in her eyes. "What if they come back?" "They won't," Daniel assured her, though he tightened his grip on the branch he still carried, just in case. After what felt like hours, they emerged onto a dirt road. The sisters' SUV sat abandoned nearby, its windows shattered, but the vehicle itself was intact. Daniel inspected it quickly, finding the keys still in the ignition. "You're lucky they didn't take this," he said, opening the door for them. Sophia hesitated, turning to him. "What about you? You're coming with us, right?" Daniel shook his head. "This is where we part ways. You'll be fine from here." Sophia's eyes widened in disbelief. "You can't just walk away. You're bleeding. At least let us take you to a doctor." "I'll be all right," Daniel said, stepping back. "Just drive. Get somewhere safe." Sophia opened her mouth to protest, but Emma tugged at her arm. "Sophia, let's go. Please." Reluctantly, Sophia climbed into the SUV. As the engine roared to life, she leaned out of the window. "Thank you, Daniel. I won't forget this." He nodded, watching as the vehicle disappeared down the road. Only then did he allow himself to collapse onto the grass, exhaustion overtaking him. Meanwhile, back at their father's sprawling mansion, the sisters burst through the doors, frantic and shaken. Their father, Richard Belmont, a towering man with a commanding presence, rose from his armchair, his face etched with worry. "Where have you been?" he demanded, rushing to embrace them. "I've had the police searching everywhere." Sophia and Emma recounted the harrowing events, from the bandits to the mysterious man who had saved them. Richard listened, his expression darkening with every detail. "He saved us, Dad," Sophia said, her voice trembling. "If it weren't for him, we'd be dead." "Who is this man?" Richard asked. "What's his name?" "Daniel," Sophia replied. "He didn't tell us much else. He wouldn't even let us help him." Richard's jaw tightened. "Then we'll find him. A man like that deserves more than just our thanks." The next day, Daniel awoke in his small cabin to the sound of knocking. Groggy and still sore, he opened the door to find two men in suits standing on his porch. "Daniel?" one of them asked. "Yes," Daniel replied warily. The man extended a hand. "We're representatives of Richard Belmont. He'd like to meet with you." Daniel frowned. "Why?" The second man smiled. "Let's just say he's very grateful for what you did." Hours later, Daniel found himself standing in front of a mansion that looked like something out of a dream. The opulence was overwhelming, and he felt out of place in his simple, threadbare clothes. Inside, Richard greeted him with a firm handshake. "You're the man who saved my daughters," Richard said, his voice warm but commanding. "I owe you everything." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "I just did what anyone would have done." "Don't sell yourself short," Richard said. "Courage like yours is rare. I want to reward you." "I don't need a reward," Daniel said firmly. "I only did what was right." Before Richard could respond, Sophia entered the room. She froze when she saw Daniel, her heart skipping a beat. He looked different here, still rugged but somehow more vulnerable. Their eyes met, and an unspoken connection passed between them. "Daniel," she said softly, stepping forward. "You came." He nodded. "Your father insisted." As the conversation continued, Sophia found reasons to linger near Daniel, her feelings growing stronger with every passing moment. He was unlike anyone she had ever met, humble, brave, and unshakably kind. Over the following days, Richard tried to offer Daniel money, a new home, even a job in his company, but Daniel refused all of it. He wasn't interested in wealth or luxury. What he couldn't refuse, however, was Sophia's presence. She sought him out constantly, drawn to his quiet strength and the warmth in his eyes. One evening, as they walked together in the mansion's sprawling gardens, Sophia finally confessed her feelings. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said, her voice trembling. "You're the kind of man I've been searching for my whole life." Daniel stopped, his heart pounding. "Sophia, I'm not." "Don't," she interrupted, placing a hand on his chest. "Don't tell me you're not good enough. You've already proven you are." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes, the weight of his struggles momentarily lifting. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to believe that happiness might be within reach.